Happy Tuesday. I'm so glad that you're live here with me tonight because this love chat is personal. So I want to start off by asking you something. I want you to think about someone that you love. It could be your best friend, your daughter, maybe your mom. And if I asked you right now to describe what is amazing about them, you would have it instantly, right? You would know what their strength is. You could talk to me about their heart, the way that they show up for people. You would probably remind them, if you were speaking to them, of something good about themselves that they have forgotten. And you would say it like you mean it because you do. All right. So if you thought about somebody, just drop in the chat who you thought about. Now, let me ask you a different question. When was the last time that you talked that way about yourself? And I'm not talking about in passing, not when something good happens. I'm talking about being in a consistent way or a consistent conversation where you see the good not only in the people around you and the people that you love, but are you extending that same level of love and generosity to yourself and being honest with yourself about that? Now, if that question made you pause, then stay with me tonight because we're going to talk about something that shapes way more of your life than most women realize. It's not just a relationship with yourself, okay? I'm talking about something that goes deeper than talking about the relationship to yourself or loving yourself, I should say, like that woo-woo love yourself generic way. Now I'm talking about a real specific, honest way that affects who you let get close to you. It affects what you tolerate in relationships. And it also affects what you actually believe, like deep down, what you actually believe that you deserve. Now, I promise you, you're going to want to stay with me because by the time we're done tonight, you're going to see this differently. All right. It's actually going to show up completely different way for you. Now, I want to share with you something that I see over and over again with the women I work with, the women that Gladys works with. We see this constantly. And what we see is we get to work with these amazing women, right? They're brilliant, accomplished women who are so generous and loving to their core. Now, ask that same woman to describe someone they love and she lights up. Like their face changes, the words come easily, and they mean every single word that they say. Now, if I ask them to describe themselves, something else happens. I'll hear something like, well, I'm working on it. Or they give me a highlight reel of all of their accomplishments, followed immediately by this laundry list of everything that is still wrong or not perfect, everything that they're not yet, everything that they haven't figured out. Now, I want you to know something that isn't always obvious, and it's a very important distinction. That playing down or talking down about yourself, that's not humility. It's actually a pattern. And that pattern is not coming from nowhere. Most of us were trained at a very, very early age and very effectively to notice what everybody else needs and put those needs before our own, or to give credit generously, but to take it reluctantly. You may have been trained to be the one who sees the best in people, believe in people, and hold space for people because someone has to, and it might as well be you because you're the strong one. And these are all beautiful qualities. I really mean that. From the bottom of my heart, I mean that. Now, the women who do this are often the most extraordinary women in the room. And here's what happens. That same generous lens you point outward so freely to other people almost never turns around on you. So what happens is that over time, you become genuinely fluent in appreciating other people and seeing their amazingness, and almost completely illiterate in appreciating yourself. Like you can spot somebody else's strengths in 30 seconds flat, but to sit with your own, it starts to feel uncomfortable. It might even feel like you're being arrogant, like you're not supposed to see yourself that way, that clearly. And here's the part that really gets to me because I see this all the time. You will fight for somebody else's worth before you stand up for your own. And you remind your best friend, your mother, your sister, that she's enough, that she is worthy, that she deserves real love. And then you go home and you tell yourself a completely different story. So in the comments, answer this question for me. When someone gives you a genuine compliment, what is your response? What's your instinctive response? Like, do you receive it with a thank you? Or is the thank you followed by something else? Or do you deflect it? Be honest and just tell me in the chat. When somebody gives you a compliment, what do you do? And even if you say thank you, is it thank you with a discomfort? Or is it thank you with a freedom to just receive it? All right, so go ahead and put your answer in the chat. Now, I already know what some of you are typing or what you will have typed once you watch this if you're watching the replay. Many of you deflect. Or you say thank you, but it feels uncomfortable. Or you say thank you and you don't believe it, or you want to change the subject because you don't like the attention being on you. And if I ask that question because it's an example of the pattern I'm talking about in real time. And here's the thing, it is so automatic that most women don't even notice that they're doing it. It just feels like I'm being realistic, or I'm being humble, like I'm being grounded, or, I don't want to get too full of myself. But here's what it actually is. What it is a woman who has been her own harshest critic for a really long time. And it makes it difficult to receive the truth about yourself, even when it's standing right in front of you. So I want to talk to you about why this matters for you, specifically for your love life. Not just for your self-esteem and your confidence, which are important, but I'm talking about your actual love relationships. The relationship that you have with yourself, think about it like the floor where all of the other relationships you will ever have comes from. Like it gets created from this floor. And I want you to really hear that, not as a concept, because a lot of people have heard, the relationship you have with yourself is the basis for all relationships. I want you to get this down to your bones, that the relationship that you have to yourself, whether you say it to other people or you just say it to yourself, is the floor on which every other relationship you have is built on. So I want you to get this as something that's actively happening in your love life right now, especially if you're not in the kind of relationship you want to be in. If your inner voice runs on criticism, right? If criticism is the background soundtrack of your mind, and there's like this steady stream of, I'm not enough, or I'm not there yet, or I'm not quite right, here's what's going to happen. You're unconsciously going to accept a partner whose voice sounds familiar to that voice. Even if familiar means critical, even if familiar means withholding affection, withholding love, withholding attention, even if familiar means they're not emotionally available for the level of connection and the level of intimacy that you want. Or they leave you feeling like you constantly have to work hard to earn their attention, to earn their love, to earn their affection, in ways that a healthy relationship with the right partner would come very easily. Now, this is happening not because you don't deserve better, because you absolutely do deserve better. Here's what's happening. Your nervous system doesn't recognize peace as normal. It doesn't recognize easy as healthy. What it does recognize is what it's used to: hard, confusing, avoidant, unattainable, challenging, dramatic. It recognizes that. And that's what it's going to move towards almost every single time. And it'll keep doing that until something changes at a much deeper level. That's why we call it a love barrier. It's not something that's wrong with you or something that you have to change about your character. It's an emotional agreement that you made a long time ago, probably without ever consciously choosing to make that agreement. It's an agreement that sounds something like, I have to be useful in order to be loved. It just can't happen just because I'm sitting here and I'm being me. Or it could sound something like, if I ask for what I want, they're going to think that I'm too needy or I'm too much or that it's too hard to be with me. Another way that it could sound is, I'm the strong one, so I don't get to fall apart. I don't get to take a break. I don't get to take a rest. I don't get to breathe. I got to keep going. So here's the painful part about those agreements. They don't stay quiet and they're not passive. They show up constantly in ways you may not even connect to your sense of self-worth. So it's not obvious that it's connected to your self-worth. You might even tell yourself, I know that I'm worthy of more. But if you're finding yourself in this conversation, please, first of all, don't judge yourself. Second of all, know that it's happening at a subconscious level. Right? So they're not passive. They show up most clearly in who you are attracted to. They show up in what you tolerate, the behaviors you tolerate, the ones you downplay, the ones you excuse away. That's where these agreements show up. They also show up in how long you wait for somebody to choose you. Like you're the one that has to wait to be chosen versus you being the one that gets to choose who you want to be with. It's in that waiting, in the waiting for external validation from somebody else. That's where it's going to show up. And it also shows up in how quickly you make yourself small or you back off to make somebody else feel uncomfortable, even if it's something that you really believe and you want to stand for. And it's going to show up in the way that you explain away his inconsistencies instead of acknowledging what his behavior is actually telling you, that this person is not someone that you can count on. So I've sat across from women who are extraordinary in every measurable way that you can think of. They're accomplished, they're emotionally intelligent, they've done their inner work, they are deeply loving with others. And I have watched them talk themselves out of their own instinct, because somewhere underneath all of that greatness that's there, there's still this part of them that's not sure they're really worth the love that they keep giving away so easily and so freely to everyone else. And why this matters is because you can't build aligned love. I'm talking about real love, a mutual love, a love that's actually good for you and healthy for you. You can't build that on top of a foundation where you're still your own harshest critic. Remember, that's the foundation. That's where everything else comes from. So if you're your own harshest critic, you can't create a healthy, loving, mutual relationship. And here's the thing, and I want you to hear this, because this is like we're flipping what people talk about on its head here. It doesn't matter how emotionally intelligent the man is. It doesn't even matter how good his intentions are. If you can't receive good treatment from yourself, you will find ways unconsciously, automatically, without meaning to, without realizing it, you will find a way to fully not receive it from him either. You'll downplay his love and his affection. You'll distrust it, whether there's a reason to or not. You'll wait for it to go away, push back against it so that it does go away, or slowly, quietly create conditions that are going to make it stop. And that's why you may not even realize that you're pushing it away, because the love he is offering doesn't match the frequency that you've been living on and living in. And so your nervous system doesn't know what to do with that kind of love. It doesn't know what to do with a love that feels good, that feels safe and easy. Because nothing about your inner world has taught it to recognize that as this is a safe place, this is home. This is what a relationship that's loving and supportive and mutual actually looks like. So before we keep going, if what I just said landed for you, if you recognize yourself somewhere in anything that I just said, I want you to do something about it instead of just nodding along and going back to your night unchanged and just business as usual. The Unleash retreat is where that work that I'm talking about actually happens. It's a 3-day fully immersive retreat. It's happening in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, August 21st through the 23rd. And it's designed specifically for women who are ready to close that gap between how they see everyone else and how they see themselves, because that gap is the key. Transforming that gap is the key to attracting the right man and the love that your heart truly desires, that healthy, mutual, safe, healthy love. Now, I'm saying this now before I keep going because there are only 4 seats remaining. So if you know you want to be there, you're going to click on the link that we're putting in the comments right now, and you want to grab one of those last seats that are left, okay? Because you have spent years building everything else in your life on purpose, and it's time to build your love life in the same way, on purpose. Now, if you're not sure whether the retreat is the right next step for you, and you never had a love breakthrough call with us before, if you've never had a love breakthrough call with us before, that call is exactly where those kinds of questions get answered. It's going to be an honest conversation about where you are in your love life right now, what is actually keeping you stuck in a loop, and how to break through it now so you can be in the loving relationship you want to be in this year. So whichever action you choose, whether it's to jump into the retreat right away or to get on the love breakthrough call and get your answers cleared, take a committed action to turn your love life around today. Don't just sit here and have today be like every other day. All right? Okay. Now, I want to hear from you directly right now. I want you to finish this sentence in the comments, in the chat, wherever you are tuning in from. I would never let someone I love believe blank about themselves, but I believe it about myself all the time. I would never let someone I love believe blank about themselves, but I believe it about myself all the time. I'm going to give it a few seconds to see if anybody answers. All right. And if not, we'll look at them after the call, or after the love chat. Sorry, after the love chat. Because however you answer that question, and even if you're hesitating to answer it because there's some level of judgment there, or what are people going to think, that's all part of it. That's all part of it. And that's exactly why we wanted to do this topic tonight instead of something else, because Gladys and I care about what actually moves the needle for you, not just about what sounds good in the moment. And until you close this gap, the gap between how you see yourself and how you see other people, then what happens is you keep creating the same disappointing dynamic, not because you want to, and not because you're doing it on purpose, but because the inner story hasn't changed. And until your inner story actually transforms, not just through affirmations, saying something to yourself 100 times, but actually deeper to the root of it, then you'll keep experiencing the same dynamics of disappointment over and over again. So what actually changes this? It might be a question you're asking yourself, like, what does change this? Because I know some of you are waiting for me to say affirmations, to say, write this in your journal, do this in the morning. And those things have their place. I'm not dismissing them. But what actually moves this, what we're talking about right now, what can create a real and lasting shift in how you see yourself and how you treat yourself, is catching it in the moment. It's knowing what to look for in real time while it's happening, where you're about to talk to yourself in a way that you would never allow someone you love to be talked to that way, and interrupting it consciously. Now, because this is happening subconsciously, this is why we're saying that work that we're doing at the Unleash Retreat is so important, because if you could stop it, you would have stopped it. Yes? If you knew how to, you would have done it. But it's a conscious interruption. Not replacing it with something that you don't believe. That's a fake positive. Not by bypassing, which is another common way that we've seen women not deal with this. I was going to say deal with this, but they're actually not dealing with this, is by bypassing the feeling is not going to transform this either. Now, you could stop yourself when you're about to say something, say, would I say this to my daughter? Would I say this to my best friend? Would I say this to a woman that I love more than anyone else in the world? Let me see. Thank you, Walaska. I won't let anyone believe that they're not capable of having the lives they want, but I say it to myself, I'm working on it. So I'm working on it, right? And I know that you are, because you're in our program. Now, here's the thing. Thank you for your honesty, because now, and I know that it took a little bit for the comments to come in. I thank you so much, those of you who are answering, for your commitment to yourself, because it's not an easy thing to do, but I'll tell you, your life starts transforming when you actually start being honest with yourself. And there's real power in saying, you know what, people are going to think whatever they think, but what I need and want right now is more important than what somebody else is going to think about me. So that was a perfect example. Thank you so much for sharing that. So this isn't just about saying something nice to yourself. So if you would never tell somebody they can never have the life that they want, and that's somebody that you love, you would never say that, then you've got to interrupt it when you're starting to say it to yourself. So if you wouldn't say it to your daughter, and you wouldn't say it to your most beloved friend, the woman you love most in the whole world, and the answer to that question is almost always no, I would never say that, then you don't get to say it to yourself either. Okay, that is not a self-help platitude. I'm talking about creating a standard for yourself. And standards are what actually change what you will and won't accept in love. Try it this week, not as an exercise, but as an actual practice. Every time you catch yourself being harsh to yourself, criticizing your body, a choice that you make, your relationship history, how long it's taking you, what you're working on, whatever it is, you're going to pause and you're going to ask yourself, let's say this to somebody that I love, my daughter, my mother, my best friend. And then choose to speak to yourself the way you speak to someone whose worth you have never once questioned. It's going to feel strange at first. And it might even feel wrong, like you're letting yourself off the hook for something. And that discomfort is actually really important information for you, because it's telling you just how foreign it is to treat yourself with the same grace and the same respect and the same love that you extend to everyone else. But that's exactly where it starts to happen when you do it consistently. And this is the part I want you to really take with you tonight. The woman who finally sees herself the way she sees everyone else, she stops accepting almost love, almost relationships, situationships, accepting breadcrumbs. And she does that not because she decided one afternoon to change her standards, but because she genuinely has stopped recognizing that almost love, that almost relationship, that crumb, that situationship, it's just not acceptable for her anymore. And it stops being familiar. And when it stops being familiar and you stop explaining away a man's inconsistency, not because someone's telling you to do that or telling you you shouldn't accept that, but because you no longer need the explanation from somebody else. And you'll know that you no longer need somebody else's explanation about what you should and shouldn't be doing when your standards are set and you trust what you see. A lot of you don't trust what you see. You've stopped trusting your instinct. You think there's something wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's been shut off. It's been shut down. And that woman also stopped shrinking her needs down to a size that makes it easier for everybody else to handle. Because she stopped believing that her needs were the problem in the first place. Your needs and your wants and your desires are not a problem. You may need support in how to communicate them, but you wanting the love that you want, you wanting respect, you wanting somebody who says they're going to do something, they actually follow through, that is not wanting too much. That is a standard. And by the way, I think it's a very low standard. We get to raise those standards. And what happens as this way of relating to yourself and speaking to yourself and being with yourself, and your standards for yourself start getting higher because they're starting from how you treat yourself, what happens is now you actually become available to receive the kind of relationship that's mutual, because you're no longer waiting for somebody else to be generous to you. You're actually being generous to yourself, and you can recognize when someone's being generous with their time, their love, their attention, their concern, because you're already used to it yourself. That is the shift. And that's what's on the other side of closing this gap I'm talking about. And it's available to you, not someday, maybe somewhere in the future, not after you keep working on it, not when you finally get it all together. It's available to you when you decide that the way you have been talking to yourself is no longer something you're willing to accept. That's the moment everything starts to move for you. So if tonight brought something up for you, if you realize somewhere in this conversation that you have been your own harshest critic while you are out there being everybody else's biggest cheerleader and champion, I do not want you to just close this out and go back to your night unchanged, because you deserve better than that. You deserve to live in a reality that is better than that, as something that you actually feel in your relationships, that something that you can see in the choices that you make and in the love that you allow yourself to receive and experience. So this exact pattern, the gap between how you see others and how you see yourself, is the one thing we go straight at during the Unleash Retreat in Fort Lauderdale, August 21st to the 23rd. So if you have done real work on yourself already and you're ready to close the gap, not just understand it, but actually move through it, real time, in a room with support, this is where that happens. And like I said earlier, there are only 4 seats left. We're keeping the group very small so it's intimate and we can spend time coaching everybody. And if you know that this is for you, don't wait. Go to the link that's in the chat, in the comments, and take that aligned, committed action to transform your relationship with yourself so that you can easily and naturally, I'm saying it twice on purpose, attract the real loving relationship that you want. Because you've built everything else on purpose, and now it's time to build a love life that matches who you are on purpose as well. All right. And again, if you're not sure, you can click on the link that says Love Breakthrough Call. And someone, if you've never had a call with us, they're going to walk you through it. You're going to find out where you are, and the conversation is going to answer all of your questions. Okay. It's just important to take a committed action tonight. Not next week, but tonight. And then, you can always come back to tonight's session if you want to come back to it, and you're going to see the difference that it's going to make for you when you start applying this. But I really hope to see you at the Unleash Retreat. We are super excited about it. We cannot wait to be in the same room, face to face, spending a weekend together, creating extraordinary love and extraordinary lives. All right. So we're going to be right back here next Tuesday for Love Chat with the Love Twins. You can share this with someone who you know needs it. You can follow us, comment, subscribe to our page, and share this with at least one woman, that woman that you thought of that you love more than anyone else. Share this with her tonight, because you never know what's happening behind closed doors. You never know what's happening in the silence of somebody's heart. All right. So we'll see you here next Tuesday on Love Chat with the Love Twins. Thank you for being with us tonight. And until our hearts meet again, always remember that you are loved.